the extradition or abduction of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, from Kenya to Nigeria in June 2021 has resulted in significant repercussions across various legal, political, social, and international spheres. Below is a comprehensive analysis of these repercussions based on the information available. Legal consequences: violation of international and domestic laws. The Kenyan High Court determined on June 24, 2025, that Kanu's arrest and transfer to Nigeria was unlawful, unconstitutional, and a severe infringement of his fundamental human rights as per Kenyan and international law. The court characterized the act as an extraordinary rendition rather than a legitimate extradition, as no judicial warrant or extradition hearing took place. Kanu was awarded 10 million Kenyan shillings, approximately 120 million naira, in compensation. On October 13, 2022, the Nigerian Court of Appeal in Abuja ruled that Kanu's abduction and rendition were illegal, dismissing terrorism charges against him due to violations of both local and international laws, including Nigeria's Extradition Act and the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. However, in December 2023, the Nigerian Supreme Court reversed this decision, permitting Kanu's trial to continue, while also recognizing the illegality of his rendition. Legal experts contend that the actions of the Nigerian government breached the principle of specialty, prosecuting Kanu for charges unrelated to the rendition, and Nigeria's commitments under international treaties, which could establish a perilous precedent for future extradition cases. Continued detention and trial. Despite the court rulings in Nigeria and Kenya that deemed the rendition illegal, Kanu remains in custody in Nigeria, facing charges related to terrorism. The Nigerian government, represented by former Attorney General Abubakar Malami, asserted that Kanu was discharged but not acquitted, thereby allowing his trial to continue. This situation has raised alarms regarding Nigeria's compliance with court orders and the rule of law. IPOB and Kanu's legal representatives contend that the trial is devoid of legitimacy due to the unlawful rendition, with some labeling it a national disgrace and an instance of state-sponsored terrorism as defined by Nigeria's Terrorism, Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022. International legal ramifications. In July 2022, the United Nations Human Rights Council Working Group on Arbitrary Detention determined that Kanu's detention was arbitrary and contravened international law, urging for his immediate release. IPOB and legal representatives have sought judicial reviews in the UK, contesting the British government's inadequate response to his rendition as a British citizen. The UK Court of Appeal expressed deep concern regarding Kanu's treatment, but rejected claims that the Foreign Secretary was required to determine the legality of the rendition. Political consequences. Escalation of Biafra. Agitation. Kanu's abduction has heightened tensions in Nigeria's southeastern region, where IPOB's push for Biafran independence enjoys substantial support. The group has pledged to seek global accountability for those implicated in the rendition, which may lead to an increase in IPOB activities. The Nigerian government's management of Kanu's case has faced criticism for eroding public trust in the judiciary, with concerns that it could exacerbate unrest in the southeast. Strained Nigeria-Kenya relations. Allegations of the Kenyan government's involvement in Kanu's abduction, despite official denials, have strained diplomatic ties. The Kenyan High Court's decision against its own government and the compensation awarded to Kanu have left a permanent legal stain on the administration of former Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta, as highlighted by IPOB. Kenya's initial denial of involvement, which was contradicted by court findings indicating collaboration with state agents, has raised significant concerns regarding transparency and accountability within its security operations. UK-Nigeria diplomatic tensions. As a British national, Kanu's family has urged the UK government to take action, contending that his rendition and subsequent detention breach international law. The UK's hesitance to implement decisive measures has attracted criticism from both Kanu's family and the UK's Foreign Affairs Committee, which has pointed out the government's inadequacy in safeguarding British citizens abroad from abductor states. Social consequences impact on southeastern Nigeria. Kanu's detention has resulted in the imposition of sit-at-home orders by IPOB in Nigeria's southeastern region, causing significant disruption to economic and social activities, although the sit-at-home was later suspended by IPOB. Kanu's temporary release in 2022 was celebrated in the area, as it was anticipated to bring an end to these disturbances. However, his ongoing detention has perpetuated tensions. Concerns are rising regarding the potential for renewed violence if the Nigerian government continues to ignore court orders for Kanu's release, which could lead to an escalation of IPOB's actions. Public sentiment and polarization. Kanu's situation has created a divide in public opinion within Nigeria. Advocates for Biafran self-determination perceive his abduction as emblematic of state oppression, while others, including the Arewa Youth Consultative Forum, regard his arrest as a justified measure against a common criminal. Discussions on X illustrate the prevailing public dissatisfaction, with some individuals advocating for Kanu's unconditional release, while others characterize his detention as an instance of state-sponsored terrorism. International consequences, global criticism of Nigeria and Kenya. The rendition has elicited global condemnation, with organizations such as the World Igbo Congress denouncing it as illegal abduction and international gangsterism. The scrutiny of both Nigeria and Kenya's compliance with international law has been heightened by UN and Kenyan court rulings. The situation has ignited discussions regarding extraordinary rendition and its effects on global human rights, which may affect future extradition protocols in Africa. The UK government is under pressure. Kanu's British citizenship has compelled the UK to take action, as his family contends that the government has not fulfilled its obligation to safeguard citizens overseas. The UK's measured strategy, referred to as quiet diplomacy, has faced criticism from the Foreign Affairs Committee for being insufficient. Ongoing developments. Despite achieving legal victories in Kenya and the Nigerian Court of Appeal, Kanu continues to be held in solitary confinement in Nigeria, with allegations of torture and lack of medical care. The IPOB persists in demanding the cessation of Kanu's trial, referencing the Kenyan ruling and Nigeria's own legislation against illegal rendition. They assert that any trial stemming from an unlawful act is devoid of legitimacy. The Nigerian government's unwillingness to fully adhere to court orders, along with the Supreme Court's ruling in 2023, indicates that Kanu's detention will continue to be a divisive issue, likely inciting further unrest and international condemnation. Conclusion: Nnamdi Kanu's abduction and rendition have resulted in significant repercussions, including legal challenges to Nigeria and Kenya's compliance with international law, increased Biafra agitation tensions in Nigeria's southeast, strained diplomatic relations, and heightened scrutiny of the UK's consular duties. The Kenyan High Court's ruling in 2025 and prior decisions from Nigerian courts emphasize the illegality of the rendition. However, Kanu's ongoing detention highlights persistent challenges to the rule of law. This case remains a critical point for discussions on human rights, state sovereignty, and the global struggle against extraordinary rendition. Family Writers Press International.